right, welcome back to Jack of All Trades, New Hampshire. Thanks for clicking on this link. I'm sure you're probably pretty interested in mini splits and if they can actually heat your house. First off, I would like to thank all my viewers. We're growing pretty quickly, and I do have something special planned if we do get to 100 subscribers, which I suspect would probably be in the next month or two. We live in an area here that was colonized back in the 1600s, and we do have some interesting things on the back of the property up near the mountain. I believe there's an old settlement up there, so I was going to hike up there in the snow. I've never hiked up there in the snow. It's only been in the springtime, so we might be able to see some interesting things up there at that time. So anyway, I had a question from one of my viewers regarding the mini split and how I used it in the winter. Now, as some of you may know, if you're searching this, you've probably already done some research. Mini splits generally are for cooling, but can be used for heating as well. You don't see too many mini splits that are just for heating. It's just typically you'll find them for cooling only, or they'll be multifunctional and you can use them for heating and cooling. So first thing, I live in an area that's pretty cool most of the year. So coming from the Midwest and moving up here into a house that was fairly new, that didn't have an air conditioning, was kind of strange. We did have the mini split installed just because we wanted to have a permanent unit in the house. We were running something like 3 window units and 3 or 4 portable units in the windows. And that was cooling our house, and we were using quite a bit of electricity to do that. So first thing is I bought this unit just for air conditioning. That was the main purpose. I did like the fact that it was multifunctional, that could heat, but this is the first winter I've had it, so I wasn't quite sure what we would deal with. I knew that from doing research that they lose a lot of efficiency in the wintertime. And something I wanted to point out here is I was able to test it on today, which was 40 degrees, which would typically be a transitional season weather for this area. So not necessarily a day where you're burning firewood yet or you have everything cranked up, but maybe you want to take the cold out of the air. And I also tested its efficiency at 5 degrees, which was last week. And I compared the temperatures, which I don't believe they're far off. I think the actual 5-degree temperature was around 126 degrees. I'll put a clip here so you can see it. All right, so here we are here at the mini split, and we're just gonna take a test of how warm it is. It's been running for about an hour, and the temperature outside is about 7 degrees. Alexa, what is the temperature outside?
Right now, it's 5 degrees Fahrenheit.
It's 5 degrees.
Today, expect a high of 35 degrees.
All right, so this is at the minimum it's expected to run, I believe. So we're just going to take a test right here, and we're going to see the difference in the temperature today when it's 5 degrees, and we're going to compare it to another day when it's warmer, which is coming up. Run this temperature check here on the vent for an entire cycle, and I'm using this spot as a reference. Okay, I believe there 128.7 is the air that it's pushing out, which is pretty warm. It's warmed this room up. It feels warm. So there's a lot of volume coming out of here because of the size of the blower, which is great. A little heater, like our little space heater, I checked it out. It's putting out more heat by about 10-15 degrees, but it doesn't have quite the volume that this has. And this right now is heating roughly 800 square feet between a kitchen and a dining room. So I'll be back here in a few days when it gets warmer, and we'll test it out and see if there is a big difference or not. All right, here we are on another day, and this is a warmer day, and I want to give you a comparison of this mini split and how it pumps out heat on a slightly warmer day. Now this would be the temperature of a day that you would still use the heater, but maybe not all day long. It is still cool outside, so this would be like a early spring, late fall type temperatures you'd wake up to. Alexa, what's the temperature outside?
Right now, it's 40 degrees Fahrenheit. Tonight, expect a low of 24 degrees.
All right, so there you go, 40 degrees outside. Let's see the temperature comparison to this degree. And I keep it on a full cycle here because what I'm measuring is the air coming out of this unit at different angles on this little deflector. So the more it's deflected, the hotter it gets, and the less it's deflected, the less heat we got. All right, 138 degrees. And then the one for today was about 138 degrees. So there's about a 13, 14 degree temperature in the air that it's pushing out, which is not bad at all. There's not a huge difference, right? So you're heating the house with either one of those temperatures, and it's working pretty well. It's definitely doing its job. So if I do, I know we're going to get some colder weather. So if we get some colder weather, I will update this, and I'll put a link in the comment section below to kind of give you an idea of what we're dealing with. So some things I want to go over here. Now, if you've ever watched any of my other videos, I run completely off script. I never actually think ahead what I'm going to do, and I don't like to do a whole lot of editing. So I typically try to make it as clean as I can so I don't have to edit, but I got some paper here today, so you know we're going through some stuff. So I apologize in advance if this is a long video. All right, so first thing I want to talk about here today is actually what it took for me to install this. I installed the unit myself. I did it over the course of probably a little bit here and there for like 4 or 5 days. Had I worked on it all together, all at once, and focused on it, I think it would have took 3 to 4 hours. The hardest part by far was researching the NEC for the electrical work. I have a background in electronics from when I was in the military, so I do have a basic concept of electricity, but I'm not an electrician. So anyway, I pulled a permit with my city after I was completely ready to install, and I installed it. The inspector came and said that we were good on the very first inspection, and I didn't have to do any changes, but that took the most time. And something you might want to consider when you're buying one of these units is the amount of money that's spent in like fuses and cable, the wire that you're going to run for it, and conduit. Those aren't really things you look at or think about initially. At least I didn't when I was pricing the unit. This one I have here is a Cooperandhunter. They're sold on Amazon. I like it for the most part. It does a really great job. I only have really a few gripes that I'll get to later, but it's a 24,000 BTU unit, and it took the place of 2 window units and 2 portable units in my house. And overall, I've noticed in the winter and the summer when I've used it for the entire month that I'm saving roughly 100 kilowatt hours a month, which isn't a lot. That's about $20, $21 in my area a month. So you're not saving a ton of money, but it is, one, way quieter than all those units running in my house. We can actually have conversations now. You barely know that it's there. That is huge. I don't know if you can really put a price on that, because you know, you would have company come over and it would be constantly droning in the background, all those air conditioning units. And then really the maintenance and upkeep and installation of all those units, like we'd have to have a place to store everything in the garage, and it's taking them up and putting them down. We have really tall windows here, which you can see, and these are crank windows. So I would actually have to get creative with installing the window units in these, and you'd have a piece of board in the window, which would take some of the lighting away. It just didn't look good. So anyway, after the installation, I had an HVAC guy come over, and he worked for about 2 hours to pressure test everything and get everything going. I think that cost around $150. Now, I know a lot of people don't do that. I actually could have done that on my own, I feel, but I would have had to buy a lot of tools that I don't already have and that I wouldn't have not have been using probably ever again, which I took that into consideration. That was almost $100 worth of tools. And so I only did that primarily because I wanted to make sure it was done right, and because I wanted to keep the warranty. Part of filling out the warranty information is you have to get the licensing information from the contractor and submit that with the warranty. And this unit has like a 7-year warranty. So I really wanted that. That's a lot of value. Okay, so I've explained the installation process, and really it's pretty straightforward. You hang it on the house, or you mount the outdoor unit, you either hang it on the house or you mount it outside. Something I want to point out though is if you do hang it on the house, you don't have to have it a full 12 inches away from the house like it says in a lot of the instructions. It can actually be up to 4 to 6 inches away. That's because it's getting airflow underneath it where it normally wouldn't if it was on a pad. I lifted mine up, as you may have seen in the video, off the ground a few feet because we do get a lot of snow here, and then I did put a protective cover over it to help kind of keep it out of the elements. All right, so here's the outdoor unit here. Notice I built a unit for the winter. I think it's important if you end up putting a unit like this in a situation where you have heavy snow, then you definitely want to make sure that it's protected. We have the eave of the house right above, so I protected it from any ice, rain, and of course snow buildup. As you can see here, I've built it a few feet in front so that the snow can pile up here and never block the unit on the house. And this was real simple to make. This was all treated wood, and this is a sheet of 8x2 stainless steel from Lowe's. I think it was like 11 or 12 bucks. I just cut it down the middle, so I got a 4x4 section here to work with. And what I want to do now is I want to give you a demo of what it sounds like outside so you can see just how quiet it is. All right, I don't know if you can hear it now. It is on. It's on full speed. I would compare it to roughly a very low setting on a box fan. We were approximately 4 to maybe 5 feet from it. Okay, and I would say that the outdoor unit is quieter than the indoor unit, which is saying a lot because the indoor unit is quiet. So we're gonna move further away now. I did have concerns at first because this was on my deck, or right by my deck, that it would be noisy. I grew up with central air, and I was quite used to that start capacitor coming on. And let's see. Okay, it's kicking off now. I think it does that initial run to check the temperature. All right, now we're over here by my deck, and I can tell you that it's on full speed. And this is as loud as it gets for heating and air. Very low, very quiet. I mean, if you can get past the site, you know, it's kind of unsightly. If you can get past that, the noise is definitely not a problem at all. All right, so let's go back inside and check out the indoor unit. The indoor unit, it's real simple. You just, which is kind of stressful, you do cut a hole, an angled hole in the wall to lead outside. That's probably the most stressful part, and also trying to figure out exactly where you want to put it so it gives the most cooling in your house. In the summertime, when it gets into the 90s here in New Hampshire, I can have this cranked all the way down to 62, and it'll drop the rooms here. These are 2 big rooms that it's cooling. I have a living room that has 18-foot ceilings, and then I have a dining room and kitchen area with 10-foot ceilings. And overall, this is probably about 750 to 800 square feet, and I can cool it 1 degree every 15 minutes until I hit the thermostat limit. So it does cool very good. Heating, what I use it for heating, I don't use it for full-time heating, of course, because I burn wood. In the transition seasons, I did. We can go into the app a little bit. The app on the phone is a little chintzy, but I would set up a schedule on the app and have it kick on at 6 a.m. and run for 2 hours until 8. And this would take over my heating needs in the early spring and the late fall. because really you just want to take the cold out of the air in the morning, and then once the sun comes up, it does the rest. So that has allowed me to kind of have a little more peace of mind. I get more sleep in the morning. I don't have to get up and babysit a fire, which I try to delay that whenever I can, because it is a full-time job to babysit a fire constantly. So I save probably about 1/8 of a cord now. It seems like I've kind of averaged it out. I think I'll save 1/8 of a cord a year by not having those in-between burns every morning, which is good. It's not so much the wood though as it is the time saving. Like on the weekends, I can sleep in until 6 or 7 whenever I need to, instead of getting up at 5 when it would typically be burning down low and throwing some logs on. So that is a great part about it. So we have the installation. We'll look at the app here. Some things I want to point out is all of these units seem to be the same. They're Chinese. Mine came from Florida, like a port down in Miami. So I know it was boated in from somewhere else. It's definitely not American made, and most of these units are very similar, just different branding. So I can tell you that that the app is pretty rough. If you get to a point where you are constantly offline with the unit, then what you actually have to do is you need to go down to the breaker and cut it off completely, the whole unit off for 10 seconds and then kick it back on, and that will allow you to be back on Wi-Fi. Now, I've used this unit before in the summertime. This past summer, we were gone for 2 weeks, and we have 2 cats here, so I don't want them in a house that's burning up. And we had somebody coming and feeding them every other day, but that individual was really not able to control the air conditioning and heating in the house. So I was able to monitor the temperatures in the house to kick the air on when I needed from hundreds of miles away, which is a huge benefit. Another thing is like my son has swim lessons, and we'll go to swim meets, and we'll be gone for 6 or 7 hours at a time. And I'm not going to build a fire up during the middle of the day to keep the house warm during that period. So before we come home, like an hour before we're supposed to head home, I can kick the heat on again and take the chill out of the air, and to give us a reprieve from having to worry about all that stuff. So it's really it's come down to a convenience factor. When I was pricing these, I was really set on getting one that was energy efficient, mainly for the reason of I wanted the energy credits. I wanted to be able to get that rebate from New Hampshire's Eversource, which is who I use. And it was something around the lines of $400 per ton. So 12,000 BTUs is a ton. I have a 24,000 BTU unit. That's 2 tons. I was going to get $800 back. I spent $1,300 on this unit, and that's what, $500 I was going to pretty much spend. Well, this is going to kind of segue into my biggest con with this unit. This unit was a 2016 model that I bought in 2019, and it was Energy Star rated in 2016, but not in 2019. So I could have gotten the credit at 16 when I bought it brand new, but I guess they had additional stock on hand, and so when I applied for the credit, pretty much said tough luck. So I ended up paying full price for it, which did suck. So that's one big con. The second con is the app is really rough. I can set it right now. I can schedule it to come on, but I can't schedule it to come off. So my workaround right now is I schedule it to come off, and I have it set for heat for 2 hours, and then I have it scheduled to come on to fan, which saves a bunch of energy because the compressor outside kicks off, and so the indoor unit is just running. It's 1/8 DC horsepower. So that's how I work it right now. You can't actually schedule it to come on at 6 and then off at 8. It just won't turn off. So that's one fluke with the app. I do have a workaround with it, luckily. Also, you can also turn the temperature on it, so you can have it set to like 86, which is the max now, and then in 2 hours you can have it set down to 70, which would kick the heat off, and it would just be fanned again. So that would be another workaround. So that is, I believe that's it. That's all the major things that I have to talk about with this unit. I do think it's very useful as far as heating in the transition seasons. It does give me peace of mind that I can kick the heat on from anywhere that I'm at, in the United States or wherever abroad. I can control that Whenever I'm traveling with work, my wife, who doesn't typically like to burn firewood, can simply turn this on. This gives her some comfort and some ease. And so far, we have saved some money with the utilities, simply because we were running a bunch of units before. We're running one unit now in the summer, and in the winter, I know it doesn't seem like it, but we would use spot heating. We would use smaller electrical heaters in certain places to keep us warm. Like we'd get up early in the morning, we'd have a little heater by the office desk on our feet to keep us warm, and those things really pump out of a lot of electricity. So, and they're not efficient. So we've gotten rid of using all of that, and that's how we managed to save electricity with the units. So if you have any questions about the mini split, go ahead and let me know. I'm pretty sure all these Chinese units are the same. So if you have any problems, I can tell you one thing that just came to mind. When you're installing the indoor unit, you have to have a disconnect. I know that I searched everywhere for this online. Some codes say you don't have to have an internal disconnect. Some do say you have to have one. So I bought a 3-pole disconnect because I had 3 communication wires, which were all DC electric, right? And then 1 ground. And this was a 3-pole disconnect, 1 switch that I mounted into the wall. I painted the cover, the switch, and everything the same color of the wall. Actually, I'll put a picture right here. You can barely see it. So it worked out really good. The inspector that came over told me that he's seen people that have put actually 3 light switches in a row. And I guess that's really a cheap way to get by with it. But I wouldn't want to cut 3 holes in my wall, or a 3-gang box hole size in my wall, just to get away with spending a little bit less. I mean, we're talking like $25 for a 3-pole switch on Amazon versus what, $3-4 at Home Depot for it. So you're not saving a whole lot of money. It's just cleaner to put a 3-pole switch in there, and it's required in my area. So you do have to have the 3-pole switch. So make sure you do that. You might be able to get away with not doing it, but I didn't want the second time around for the inspector to come out. I wanted to get the work done immediately. So that's all I have. If you have any questions about the install, maybe you're installing this yourself, I can give you some tips maybe. Like I said, I did read through the NEC for about 3 or 4 days before I was completely comfortable with doing the electrical, and the inspector really thought I did a good job. So I might be able to answer some of those questions. That's just about the hardest part. Everything else with the installation is pretty straightforward. Yeah, I think that's it. So I'm looking forward to having 100 subscribers. I hope that happens here soon. I will be making the hike up into the mountains. Luckily, we've had enough snow on the ground here lately that I think all the black bears are in hibernation, so I shouldn't have any problems with that. That would be pretty exciting if I did, though. So anyway, if you like what you saw here, please give me a like and subscribe down below, and you'll get a regular video from me here where I typically will go over things that I deal with here in New Hampshire with the winter and the summer, and just everyday things that I do living in New Hampshire. All right, take care and bye.